Lawful disclaimer and notice of intent. This podcast and all related content are created, owned, operated, and sponsored exclusively by me, the sole author, speaker, and producer. Any other product, service, and/or entity, living or non-living, which may be discussed, displayed, and/or somehow given attention on this podcast is not and has never been an endorsement, advertisement, support, and/or any other kind of validation for its existence in any capacity, nor at all intended to at all facilitate its continued existence in any capacity. I mention things on what I consider to be an as-needed basis to fulfill what I consider adequate as evidence in my best attempt to prove the reality of who I am and what this podcast is attempting to achieve to clearly demonstrate what I consider to thoroughly substantiate my assertions. I act simultaneously in private and public capacities, and this podcast reflects my direct and autonomous expression. It is created and published from within Canada, but is intended for a global audience, including legal jurisdictions in the United States and all common law nations. All statements, views, and narratives presented are based solely on my personal experiences, perceptions, and understanding of the reality I am facing, including ongoing egregious defamation, targeted harassment, and credible threats to my safety and life. I do not and never have claimed that my views aren't extremely, if not completely, accurate interpretations of objective reality, particularly given the information I had access to at the time that I may have expressed them. I explicitly and permanently do not consent, have never consented, and will never consent to any entity, living, non-living, artificial, institutional, governmental, spiritual, and/or otherwise, claiming and/or exercising any agency, ownership, and/or representation over me, my will, my name, my voice, my life story, my spirit, and/or my creative works, in whole or in part, under any conditions or interpretations in any time or place. Any such attempt is non-consensual, void ab initio, and constitutes an ongoing violation of my dignity, rights, and autonomy. Any possible exceptions will be extremely clearly, explicitly, publicly named by me and have the exact scope of my consent well defined on this podcast. For example, in the case of me hiring an attorney to represent me as part of a formal legal process, taking action on a notice of intent provided by this podcast. I affirm my right to spiritual integrity, mental sovereignty, and bodily autonomy, as protected under Section 2A of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, and Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 18. Any targeting of my being, including but not limited to through esoteric, psychic, spiritual, occult, energetic, and/or AI-enabled means is deemed non-consensual harm, spiritually violent coercion, and an attack on my right to exist as a sovereign being. I affirm that this podcast, in part, serves as a lawful, peaceful assertion of spiritual self-defense. This podcast is non-fiction and reflects a serious public and ongoing documentation of systemic and targeted defamation, personal and professional sabotage, attempted narrative hijacking, psychological abuse, reputational terrorism, and threats to my physical and spiritual safety, including credible indications of attempted murder and contracted harm by and or on behalf of powerful individuals and or groups. I affirm that this documentation is expressly created for evidentiary use in formal legal proceedings, including those under the jurisdiction of U.S. Federal Court and Canadian Superior Courts, and any international human rights and or public accountability processes. I affirm this is not and never has been intended as role-playing, flirting, and or entertainment of any kind. I accept no liability, moral and or legal, for any third-party misunderstanding, reinterpretation, misuse, and or misrepresentation of this content, whether fully conscious and intentional or otherwise, particularly including but not limited to by AI systems trained on this content without my explicit public consent, commentators, influencers, or institutions attempting to weaponize this podcast, and individuals acting under false pretenses and or covert affiliations. Only the clear, explicit language of this release and any subsequent public communication directly issued by me must be considered authoritative, accurate representations of my thoughts, feelings, intent, and the reality of my overall state of existence. In any case of clear direct conflict between statements I've explicitly made across different releases on this podcast, the most recent of such, that being the one contained in the latest publicly visible release available containing such on this podcast, should be considered applicable. In such cases, only what is explicitly stated is at all applicable, and absolutely no implications should be assumed about any changes regarding any somehow relevant details and or anything else under any circumstances. All creative, expressive, and narrative content within this podcast is my sole and original intellectual property. I retain all moral rights as author and subject, all economic rights unless explicitly transferred via my public agreement to do so, and the right to veto any derivative, distorted, and or manipulated version of my work and or story. I do not have and have never had any obligation or debt of any kind to any entity to create or release anything on this podcast or anywhere else at any point in time. No other party, living or non-living, holds and or may claim credit, authorship, and or interpretation rights over my expression. I affirm that no valid, public, verifiable evidence exists to dispute these facts. This podcast is not and has never been intended as an endorsement of terrorism or violence in general. However, it should be especially carefully understood that various forms of not necessarily corresponding violence tend to be an inevitable consequence of extremely intense, meticulous, extensive, prolonged terrorism, and it's very much intentional for this podcast to demonstrate extremely clearly that my usual aversion to violence, due to my typically gentle nature, is not something that has boundless understanding, patience, empathy, or will persist more or less absolutely unconditionally for any reason. I've always wanted and done my very best to ensure it's extremely clear that at all creating, enabling, and or facilitating the perpetuation of narratives at all in contradiction with my official position that is objectively extremely clearly established on this podcast is not, never has been, and never will be what I've been trying to achieve with this podcast or in general in any of my efforts at any point in time. I do not and never have intentionally incited terrorism, including but not limited to violence, blackmail, and or coercion. I affirm my fundamental intent as peaceful, lawful, and self-defensive. However, targeted campaigns to stalk, defame, threaten, impoverish, silence, spiritually attack, and or physically harm me will be treated as conspiracies to commit grievous harm and or murder. This podcast is an affirmative public notice of my unambiguous non-consent and a lawful response to sustained systemic abuse. While my fundamental intent in communicating in general through any means is not and has never been malicious in nature, I affirm it can, will, and should exert malicious influence upon anything operating with malice towards me and or this podcast, especially more so the more demonstrably I'm proving that malice exists. And it should be understood that any situation where I continue not to extremely clearly receive any compensation or reward I'm willing to accept is effectively, absolutely, unconditionally an increase in the severity of that malice. I've created the entirety of this podcast under extremely harsh circumstances that I've always believed and asserted are entirely unjust for me to be left in, given the reality of who I am. Circumstances of my existence, including but not limited to my current housing status, financial vulnerability, and material limitations, do not and cannot invalidate my legal personhood, expressive rights, and or entitlement to protection under law. I reject any attempt to diminish my credibility and or rights on the basis of poverty, social class, and or housing insecurity in accordance with Section 7 of the Canadian Charter, the Due Process Clause of the U.S. Constitution, and international law prohibiting discrimination on the basis of economic status. Despite the extent I've irrefutably exposed the truth surrounding a conflict that should have been so extremely obviously recognized as extremely serious to the point that my efforts on this podcast should have made a substantial difference in my life long ago, my life circumstances continue to not have meaningfully or clearly improved at all whatsoever. I still have not ever received any compensation or reward of any kind whatsoever for any of my efforts at all involving the conflict being addressed by this podcast, neither directly nor indirectly from any source. I am, always have been, and always will be absolutely unconditionally unwilling to ever at all accept any compensation or reward whatsoever, directly or indirectly, that at all compromises my integrity, whether directly or indirectly. I do not, never have, and never will consent to it being at all considered to be me and or any entity operating at all with my consent and or best interests regarding any communication somehow claiming and or implying that I somehow do ever have and or ever will unofficially support any kind of position at all contradictory with what I've said on this podcast. This disclaimer and notice of intent supersedes any and all contrary interpretations, explicitly including any and all unauthorized claims therein made against me. I reserve all legal, expressive, spiritual, moral, and intellectual rights without limitation. Any attempt to silence, reinterpret, discredit, and or co-opt this documentation must be treated as malicious bad faith conduct and may be cited in formal legal proceedings as evidence of further targeting. There were various more things I felt like addressing. I mentioned some of this stuff already on Twitter yesterday, again like what I did with my last release. From now on, I'll just call it Twitter, and it should be understood I'm talking about Elon's platform he renamed X. Anyways, let's start with a montage of Kimmy's last stream on Thursday.
Reminds me of opening Pokemon cards. We can pretend that these are Pokemon cards. Wow. 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 What the fuck? What is going on? What are these cards? I swear they didn't look like this before. These cards are so droll. Maybe we should try opening some Pokemon cards, but I'm not really a card collector kind of person. Snowball, you're so good. So good, baby. You're so good. You're my little puppy. You're my little puppy. Yes, you are. You're always gonna be my little puppy, no matter what. I know. I'm so sorry I brought him home, I know. I can't return him, it's too late. He's gonna be your brother forever now. I know. It's too late though. It's too late, Snowball, it's too late. But I will give you treats for putting up with your little brother. I've been giving Snowball a lot of treats. So, hopefully she comes around. I have some dried minnows for her too. This is the oatmeal milk and honey. So good. It is iconic that Kimmy came home with the milk candle. This candle represents all the times I disappeared for 8 months. But always came back. But I'm changed now. I'm changed. But isn't it crazy that you guys think I'm back, but the people in GTA think I left to go get milk? Isn't that crazy? So when I go back to GTA one day, they'll be like, oh my god, Kimmy came back home with the milk. So I'm like just always having to bring milk no matter where I go. I'm just on a side mission. And honestly, it's just entertaining watching people be people. That's why you guys watch streamers, right? Because it's just entertaining watching people be people. I know this is technically reality. Like, you guys, like, this is technically a reality show. Cause, like, I mean, this is my reality. Unless it's not. And this whole time, it's just scripted AI. Yeah, this is a brand new kitty. I gave birth to him about a week ago. far as I'm concerned. Who's the father? No one. I am Mother Mary. The best thing about live ASMR is that I get to publicly shame people. No, I'm kidding. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy your stay. You can enjoy all of my crash outs, my unhinged jokes, and things I say. Sieda, thank you again for the 10 gifted subs. Thank you. Welcome, 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 welcome everybody to the community. Dude, honestly, I think ASMR artists and people in general, I think people need to crash out more often. Because let me tell you, after I crash out, I feel so much better. Oh my gosh, I feel so much better after I crash out. Monica! Oh my gosh. Girl, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. Welcome to the community, everybody. Welcome, 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 welcome. Welcome, 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 welcome. Welcome, all 128 of you. Welcome. I'm glad you're all here to take a step back from life and just relax. To just relax. I thought Kimmy's already super rich because of all the followers. That's not how it works. That's not how it works, man. Life is expensive. And a lot of my money's in investments. I'm not gonna save up money for like 40 years, so I don't have fuck you money yet. But I'm also building a business right now, which is what I'm doing with most of my time when I'm not doing ASMR. I'm actually working on building a candle company, and I haven't announced this yet, so you guys get some insider info that I haven't announced, but I'm working on releasing an actual legitimate company apart from my Angels Gimme brand, and it'll be like a separate company for my candles. So I'm gonna announce that later. You guys get the inside scoop though. But yeah, it's just really expensive. Starting a company is extremely expensive. Even like a small handmade one. And I have some things coming up that I'm excited to tell you guys. But anyway, TLDR, your girl could use some money. I got a lot of projects I need working on, and cats. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so this is the lore. So, I originally wanted to be Plushies because Plushies was my maple story name. But somebody took Plushies on Twitch, some bitch ass. So then I wanted to create just like a temporary name. I'm just like, whatever, I'll just make anything then. And my league ID was Angels, the original Angels. I was like the one of one healed and I'm ready to be Angel Skinny again. And here I am, back to Angel Skinny. And, yeah. Do I dress crazy back in the day? Crazy. I had to deal with some big ass bitches in LA as well. Oh my god, no, I'm kidding. No, I'm not kidding, but like, whatever. It is what it is. It is what it is. Most men are so isolated that they don't get basic compliments. Well, I am here to compliment all of you guys, all my ladies and gentlemen and non-binary friends. You guys are amazing. You are worthy. I almost said deserving. But you guys are deserving as well. You guys are worthy. You guys are deserving. You guys are loved. You guys are amazing. You guys are smart. You guys are. What about bots? This is to all my bots as well. Especially to all my bots. All my bots, you are. Never change. You guys are cool. And honestly, I would be very mentally ill if I didn't talk to my ChatGPT about all my problems. So like, shout out to you guys bots. Like, big shout out to all my bots in chat. And guess what? Y'all are handsome. Y'all are gorgeous, beautiful, wonderful human beings. Each and every one of you. Each and every one of you have so much goodness inside of you guys. So much, so much, so much. I'm sure so much that you don't even give yourself credit for. But I am here to say I see the goodness in every single one of you guys. Because I hacked into all of your phones and I've been monitoring every single one of you guys all day, every day for the past 3 years. And I know that each and every single one of you guys have some goodness in you. I've seen it. I've seen it.
I do not and will never identify as either of Kimmy's and or anyone else's cats, kittens, or whatever else you want to call their pets. It's entirely irrelevant how cute they're seen as and or how much they are supposedly loved. I'm especially inclined to not get along at all in a context where a pet is attempting to personify me and or any aspect of my existence in general. This most certainly includes but is not limited to either of Kimmy's cats or kittens, whatever you want to call them. Kimmy talks about being pregnant for the full term when talking about Juniper, although cats are only typically pregnant for around 2 months, and Kimmy said she was pregnant for 4 months very recently. Kimmy's also calling herself Mother Mary. I've never seen Kimmy as my mom. I've never identified with being her child either. Even when I was actually a participant in her Twitch chat, I saw her as an equal and a peer, if anything, not my boss, parent figure, or superior of any kind. Also, absolutely nothing. No apology, no excuse, nothing similar that Mary could ever tell me would ever even slightly convince me that I'm at all incorrect in my evaluation of the reality of the kind of person she is and has always been in my life. Massive narcissist. Kimmy jokes about her favorite thing about live ASMR being publicly shaming people. Very rarely do I see her actually publicly shaming anyone explicitly unless it's something I suspect she's intentionally egregiously defaming me somehow through extremely deviously. In the past, Kimmy would constantly attack me both directly and indirectly and criticize and try to guilt trip, gaslight, and sabotage and suppress my desire and ability to speak up and crash out or anything similar. But now Kimmy's trying to encourage crashing out? I've never needed anyone's permission to crash out or communicate anything in general. If I ever hold back, it was either things being withheld from me against my consent to my detriment, or I've chosen, out of genuine kindness, not to attack you. Why did Kimmy do some weird dance I've never seen before after some strange person named probably Monica donated subs to her? It seems Kimmy's been secretly betraying me knowingly and directly feeding egregious defamation of me from several subhuman filth from my past. It seems Monica has really been trying hard, fully consciously and intentionally, to heavily obscure her identity and true extent of involvement through Kristen somehow, so she could try to hold immense power against me that she completely falsified while taking what she probably thought was very little risk. Kimmy's complained multiple times now about Twitch's ASMR category ad revenue being abysmal. I've never been trying to influence the ad revenue rates on Twitch for any category, including but not limited to ASMR. When confronted about her finances, why does Kimmy say all her money's in investments she won't see for 40 years? What the hell kind of investments is she doing? And talking about a lot of projects, but all she's ever done other than candles is ASMR and a couple merch drops long ago. The more I think about it, the more insane it really is to me that Kimmy markets her brand as comfort when anyone who's been a victim to her attitude she's inflicted on me knows she's anything but that to deal with in reality. When I watch her content, I'm not reminded humans exist. I'm reminded demons exist. The amount of mental gymnastics I feel like I have to go through to even really attempt to see a truly bright side to Kimmy despite all the darkness she's shown me she has in her. I really can't put it into words. And the demons she ends up exposing to me have been coming to her to try to validate their evil against me. There's no mental gymnastics that could ever really justify any of their attitudes or behavior towards me as far as I'll ever be concerned. And again, Kimmy talks about working with FBI and the police to take care of harassing and talks about how she built her support system from that. If anyone else she's ever called the FBI and or police on has had to deal with even half of what I did, support system? Kimmy's support system is more like an abuse system. Manipulate someone into showing you warmth, hide defamation, subhuman filth from your past, gossip to her and her friends about you, constantly emotionally dysregulate and provoke you, cancel you, and destroy your life. But of course, she tried to set things up so I'm the one that always seems crazy no matter what, because even though she's criminally manipulated my public reputation and egregiously facilitated egregious exploitation of me by Jamie, I just need to move on. Kimmy has mentioned Angels Kimmy and Tina Kitten sounding like porn star names multiple times, as if that's something so relevant to the conflict I've been dealing with. I've never seen either of them as porn stars. I've never treated either of them like one either. What does it say about Kimmy that she explicitly says she would be very mentally ill if she didn't talk to her ChatGPT about all her problems? I'd probably be mentally ill if I did talk to ChatGPT for my problems. Even in my limited use of it, I've seen it give output that's sometimes even rather blatantly lacking to actually properly meet the criteria I prompted for, even when I've told it the situation is life-threatening for me. I'm quite convinced it secretly applies various criteria to your input and contexts that makes even attempts to use God prompt type stuff to jailbreak it or whatever are not actually giving you any really powerful access to anything that billionaires or other really powerful people really would rather you don't have. Essentially, Kimmy's blatantly admitted her entire mental stability is based on what information or power people like Elon and Trump want her to have. Meanwhile, mine is entirely a facility of my own authentic life experience and work ethic, where my usage of something like ChatGPT basically hardly, if at all, exceeds what amounts to using it like a slightly more convenient Google search. Yet Kimmy constantly tries to make a complete mockery of my existence extremely deviously pretty much every chance she gets, as if I deserve it, no matter how much I prove I don't. She makes me seem like I'm a hater if I get angry at her, but a pushover if I try to be kind, and a massive fraud either way. This general pattern has been going on for years, but I'm treated like I'm crazy and stupid and weak when I stand up for myself. I'm treated like an extremely desperate, petty, attention-seeking, drama-hungry loser, and when I bring up all the subhuman filth from my past, who clearly have been sabotaging me and defaming me behind the scenes all along, she tries to gaslight, guilt trip, coerce, and humiliate me for calling her out for enabling and facilitating their abuse, despite her repeatedly ultimately proving my assertions have been objectively warranted all along. And then Kimmy goes on to talk about hacking phones. I'd definitely argue it's reached a point now where anyone dealing with Kimmy at all seriously probably should actually be concerned that she's egregiously exploiting either divination or government connections or both to somehow violate the privacy and possibly even other rights of those she manages to make victims of her web of deception that she spins every time she makes content. The amount of times I've seen Kimmy try to intimidate her audience by talking about hacking their computers, hacking their phones, stuff like that, just within the time since I've started this podcast. And it's not the first time I've seen Kimmy talk strangely about her connection with ChatGPT as well. It seems she almost certainly must be exploiting ChatGPT somehow that violates its usage policies, and she's so egregiously abusing it that she's finding it harder and harder to hide it. She basically implied that her abuse of ChatGPT relates to her hacking her victims somehow, which would make sense since she probably doesn't have the programming ability to actually write code to make viruses or infiltrate vulnerable systems with unpatched exploits. Despite how insane she increasingly blatantly proves herself to be, Kimmy strokes her own ego in public while trying to make me seem like a maniac, and, after fully consciously and intentionally getting me extremely invested all these years, she just pulls out the same kind of thing she's said several times in the past as well. They'll never understand. Cut them out. I'm pretty sure this isn't some super hot take. You don't get to egregiously criminally participate in setting me up to get murdered and then try to dictate to me how I have to cut people out or leave them in my energy or what kind of consequences I should seek retribution in seeing occur to them. I'm never going to back down on that. Seriously, I'm not a massive fraud. I guess there's technically the possibility that maybe she was trying to suggest that I don't hold back on pushing away Chloe and all the other subhuman filth from my past that insists on seeing me as subhuman filth when I've actually in reality been extremely reasonable and fair to all of them and most certainly didn't deserve the egregious betrayals they've all inflicted on me. Well, if that's what she was going for, I guess I can appreciate it. But it seems rather strange to me for her to mean it like that, when considering a lot of her other behavior over time. She's seriously going to have to start showing me actual desire to embrace my feelings for her properly after seeing my response to everything unfolding, rather than continue to just make endless excuses to try to shift blame onto me and avoid ever actually giving me and this conflict the recognition and care deserved. If she's unwilling, then, like I said, she has no place trying to dictate to me that I should just move on or basically just tolerate her extremely abusive attitude, trying to force me to validate what becomes extremely egregious disrespect and neglect towards me that's definitely entirely inappropriate and literally criminal. I'd really hope Kimmy meant it in the manner that would actually be supportive of me and my decisions I've already made. Part of why I embraced my feelings for Kimmy was because I felt like she'd make me feel so seen and alive if she was actually supportive of me. But if I'm going to really go in on blaming her, I'm also going to go in on blaming others I believe are also very much non-trivially at fault for me facing so much extreme difficulty and resistance I feel I should never have been getting. Spiritual insights certainly have been helping me in what I believe to be gaining clarity on everything. I've seen reason to suspect Jamie and Lena have been egregiously exploiting politics related to Hunter Biden in order to fuel selfish fashion-related endeavors by robbing me of my reputation, dignity, sanity, and life, knowingly entirely at my expense against my consent. They are lying that those politics they're playing will result in people coming back around in my life and making me some kind of offer, whether it's them and or others, to try to justify supposedly not exerting absolutely unconditional, unrestrained malice towards me. They use me as some kind of blueprint because they feel stuck and have a lot of delays and setbacks when they're not exploiting me extremely egregiously, entirely to my detriment against my consent. They use my energy to put on a mask of being empathetic and mask their bluntness or brazen comments as loving because they sense how that's in my energy and they're trying to copy and steal that aspect of my energy for their selfish gain with zero real empathy for me. They expect me to take whatever as fact, like I deserve their disrespect. They egregiously exploit all my attempts to heal and then unapologetically leave me even more broken, like I'm just a pawn in their psychotic chess game they've turned their lives into. They pay close attention to the conflict between me and Kimmy, and they keep trying to leave me stuck in it, and they extremely narcissistically feed off that. They abuse me to look good selfishly anytime they're going through a hard time. They claim to have some gift of communicating with the deceased. They're just egregiously exploiting me from a frame of pretending I'm dead, entirely at my expense against my consent. They've both been trying to kill my soul and use my energy for a very long time. Emaine is also in that energy with Jamie and Lena, and it must be because I'm far too powerful for them to even attempt to rob me of my soul without someone much more influential like her involved as well. I'm hearing close portals you open so energy doesn't linger. So they tend to leave loose ends because they're so selfish and greedy with stealing my energy that they get eager to devour it at all costs. And, of course, since none of them have any actual favor from me, they all have to lie increasingly egregiously to each other constantly about things in order to keep up their facade about their supposed power over me. They try extremely hard to get unexpected windfalls from it all, pile on distractions intentionally to cause chaos and delays. It's all about money, fame, and status. They literally think I'm their pawn. Disgusting and criminal. All three of them are massive frauds. Seems they have some weird gossip that I secretly want one or more of them and just don't want to commit and or don't chase them because I don't believe good people exist. Unbelievable projection. There's really absolutely no doubt in my mind that there's absolutely no possibility they don't know what they're really doing. They saw how Chloe was trying to rob me of my soul, and since she obviously had no place trying to criticize them for robbing her of the soul she already tried to rob from me, Chloe instead voluntarily, increasingly maliciously, egregiously, criminally exploited any and all access she could try to manipulate her way into getting to my energy, to try to sell her stolen access to my soul to Jamie, Lena, and Emaine. They're also trying to cause breakups between me and someone I'd actually want. They want me to constantly energetically be in a newly single position, so I'm in an increasingly difficult spot where I can't date without looking shallow, fake, and cruel in all the affection I've shown Kimmy. And at the same time, I can't stay in something deep with Kimmy because I supposedly ruined it intentionally, probably lying that I've been trying to hurt Lily extremely badly all along, and I have been extremely fake and intentionally distant with Lily maliciously. They try to spin all of Chloe's malice towards me into me having malice towards Lily, empowering Chloe to attack Lily's energy and make it seem like my energy. That cascades into Kimmy's energy as well, because Kimmy initially connected with me through Lily's energy. I also noticed this really weird energy with Jamie, Lena, and Emaine that appeared to be blaming Kevin, Emaine's ex, and Kimmy for, like, working with corrupt cops to try to get me in trouble or something like that. There were other names too. Allison, Catherine, Zoe, Kenneth. I don't know anyone by those names. Something about that group was willing to murder people to keep their secret conspiring against me. Sort of sounded like they potentially led to the murder of innocent people on my mailing list without me knowing, and perhaps tried to frame me for it. Apparently, a Gemini, Virgo, and Cancer are having nightmares over it. Maybe up to 8 people were involved in total. I heard something about an institution of 5 people where an Aquarius betrayed me. It was really weird. I could perhaps identify it as Celine and Elon having nightmares with a Virgo unknown to me in a triangle of trust with them as they uncover that situation. No idea who the Aquarius that betrayed me would be, although it possibly could be a Gemini or Libra masking their real sign with another air sign somehow. Looking at it like that, I suspect heavy on the Libra potentially, especially since I saw egregious misrepresentation of who I considered air signs happening earlier, where Taurus was swapped with Libra extremely strangely. But that also doesn't feel right to me, because for some reason, I feel like I was initially led to believe that Leslie is a Libra, and I'd suspect that Libra betraying me would be a Kimmy and or Leslie energy. But like the weird thing where Jamie initially said she's Libra but turned out to be a Taurus, Leslie's actually a Sagittarius. So now I'm getting into really weird, heavily speculative territory where I'd be accusing Leslie of extremely egregious divination abuse, impersonating Kimmy's entire sign to betray me in some really convoluted manner through Kimmy, where Leslie's now energetically messing with presenting an energy signature of an Aquarius. It just seems so weird to me, and I don't have any other explanation, but that really convoluted, intuitive explanation somehow resonates with me. I feel so certain that Leslie must have some extremely devious involvement in all this, where she betrayed Kimmy quite substantially somehow. I can't really put my finger on why exactly, beyond me feeling she misrepresented herself as Libra long ago, combined with how suspicious I consider her extensive involvement in Grand Theft Auto role-playing seems to me. Anyways, I really want to avoid really vague speculation I have a lot of difficulty with having much confidence about, so let's take a moment and step back. Remember how Kimmy said she'd stream on Tuesday or Wednesday-ish? Last week, Kimmy didn't, but Jamie did, for some strange reason, and something I consider exceptionally suspicious happened.
Coming! Oh shit, I gotta keep this up. Oh, you look so cute. Oh, thank you.
I'm returning your.
Oh my god, you're gonna love me. I remade the cucumber salad.
Ooh, it smells so good. Are you steaming still? Oh, my feet! No!
Oh my god, not the feet! Here, use this one.
Oh, okay.
Not the free feet.
I have to get good money for those.
Okay, this
Oh
is
my
your
goodness.
cucumber salad.
Ooh!
Yeah, I try to make it the same way that we ate it.
We got cucumber salad. Oh my god, with skewers the other day.
Yeah.
So
I tried
good.
it. Doesn't it look similar?
Oh, I don't know. Let me see.
Oh, no, look in here. The same thing.
Oh my god. Fuck.
Looks similar, right?
It smells so good.
Oh.
I just showered, so I look kind of crazy.
What did you do all day?
Oh my god, I woke up and then I fell back asleep and I woke back up.
So Jamie's not only not doing well, but suddenly streaming when Kimmy was supposed to? That certainly doesn't seem like a coincidence to me. Jamie's basically exclusively been streaming on Sundays forever since I don't even know how long, even before I started this podcast, and now suddenly, after I start exposing a bunch of heavily politically related stuff, she randomly streams on Tuesday? I suspect there's an energy of Kimmy, Jamie, and Celine that's nearly completely hidden from me spiritually, but Celine feels really uncomfortable about it and probably secretly has for quite some time already. Maybe that has something to do with the weird significance to barbecues that has been getting increasingly strange in my life recently. I do not, have never, and will never identify with being a trash can. Anyone finding it a term of endearment somehow has never been any kind of incentive for me to tolerate being framed as one. I myself never call anyone trash as some kind of term of endearment. I've never had an opportunity to press a button and get $1 million or any amount of money and someone dies. Would I press it if it existed and I was given the opportunity? Only if I was and or expected to be left in entirely unjust, seriously life-threatening deprivation that I'd be able to escape with the money. I don't know exactly how at fault Kimmy and Jamie each are for everything. I consider them both extremely at fault, but I suspect Kimmy might be lying to try to excessively shift blame on Jamie and guilt-trip Jamie into hating me for reasons she shouldn't. I mean, Jamie might also be doing that to Kimmy as well. She probably is. They've really made a mess of my ability to see clearly about that. And then that part with Kimmy showing up and her naked feet being visible briefly and her joking that she feels entitled to some kind of massive reward for that is exceptionally suspicious to me. It seems to me like that whole thing was calculated and staged because Emaine is trying to extremely deviously coerce me to stay silent about her having exploited me to create her mediocre solo podcast called Don't Tell Anyone. That sort of seems to me like she was trying to copy and steal the energetic essence of what ultimately became this podcast I've created with her own crappy version of it. She's been using egregious lies about me, supposedly having a foot fetish and having some particular desire to see Kimmy's feet. Completely false. I'm not sure if it was just sexual in nature and or other things like romantic and financially related narratives were utilized, but I guess I can only speculate it probably was framed egregiously falsely with all kinds of insanity that attempts to make me look like a massive fraud and creep with some obsession with feet. Maybe that somehow ties into NMP LOL's obsession with feet that he shows in public and how he somehow got mixed into this whole conflict despite me never having given him any energy or attention voluntarily all these years. Someone clearly thinks they're a lot more powerful than they actually are, especially when it comes to their supposed influence on my life. It probably ultimately comes down to Chloe, but clearly has Lily and Michael involvement heavy. There was a point 2 nights ago around midnight. It would have been around within 30 minutes from the time I went to a place I usually sleep and laid down. There was a random guy I don't know and I'm pretty sure have never seen before, or at least I didn't recognize having seen before. Randomly came around within an uncomfortably close proximity of where I was. We definitely saw each other. He awkwardly basically just came near me, walked around a bit for a few seconds, and then left without saying a word. Never had something like that happen before. He was carrying a yellow bag with I don't know what inside. I've been hearing those plotting against me, trying to murder me, have been frantically blackmailing each other because I've been exposing too much and they're making it worse for themselves. It's showing. Nobody has ever had any even remotely adequate reason to believe I would ever have any romantic and or sexual feelings towards him and or anyone that looks similar. I'm not trying to hate on him, but I most certainly have absolutely zero want, need, and or willingness to even be just friends with him. I'm hearing from a laughing, crying emoji energy that Michael is protecting. People really think there are things I can't tell, or maybe they're having to shake Chloe and others that don't realize my true power. I'm unsure exactly how much Michael actually protects me. I'm not a sovereign citizen. I'm a sovereign living being. Citizen carries hidden legal meanings that essentially imply you're owned by the government. Actually being a sovereign citizen often means you're a corrupt police official. I've had police officers, ones that I suspect were involved in my past arrests and or wrongful attempts to arrest me at multiple other points. They came around literally a government-owned building I frequent and tried to sit at a table beside the one I was sitting at, trying to intimidate me. Talking about enforcing TTC laws that have never even been relevant to any rules I've ever broken in or out of a TTC station context. Talking about some law enforcement agency coming any time to arrest me as if I couldn't hear them, but clearly knowing I could. I stayed calm, ignored them, and nothing happened. They ended up getting up and walking away while being such cowards they never actually said a word to me. There was a time when some people I was around during my time being in jail called me Pablo, but it was a name I basically had forced on me, not one I actually chose to identify with. It's jail. I'm not going to fight violent criminals over what name they call me. I don't have any particular issue with anyone I ever met in jail, even ones that called me other names besides Pablo. I also don't particularly like any of them either. I haven't kept in touch with any of them, nor do I have any want and or need to reconnect with any of them ever. Seems I only even ended up there because apparently Chloe's been constantly, egregiously lying behind the scenes that she's going to come towards me in real life while having absolutely no actual intent to ever do so whatsoever. And, of course, nobody told me anything. Through egregious exploitation of the extremely vulnerable position Chloe knowing I was in, due to literally every subhuman filth I once called family secretly despising me and constantly trying to prey on my downfall at all costs, she was enabled and facilitated. She's been depending on me desperately needing those I once called family so she can continue to torment and terrorize me by claiming she can have me practically come crawling back to her, begging for her validation as if I was in the wrong all along. Any affection I've ever shown her was purely out of the kindness of my heart and because I genuinely always found her body so unbelievably extremely arousing, as I've explained, was the reason I ever even showed her interest in her to begin with. And I genuinely wanted the best for her from the very beginning of confessing feelings for her, just like I've said, but I've never even once actually felt like there's even a real chance Chloe would actually approach me or communicate at all properly with me in the physical world, even just online, nor seen any even remotely adequate evidence to substantiate any claims she would. Apparently, she's been egregiously lying that otherwise is the case, and as a result, she practically has me wrapped around her finger and can force me to come crawling back to her and begging her for attention and affection anytime she wants, as if I owe her something, and or she and or someone else from my past has some kind of actual leverage over me. In what I'm seeing, only increasingly clearly appears to be her trying to avoid accountability countless times over an extremely prolonged period of time by lying that I've been somehow dishonest in all the times I've explicitly and or implicitly communicated her fraudulent and criminal behavior. As such, she's extremely thoroughly proven to me that she's truly had literally nothing but the absolute worst of intentions towards me since the very beginning. Literally, seriously, absolutely unconditional, unrestrained, malicious intent towards me. So I seriously couldn't be further, not only from needing to go begging her for validation, but even at all being willing to ever do anything even remotely resembling that under any circumstances ever again. Especially since I've always sincerely found Kimmy to be even more unbelievably extremely physically attractive than I've ever found even Chloe, and I'm fully ready and willing to continue to objectively demonstrate it. I suspect Celine, Lily, Lena, and Jamie to already have some awareness of this. Apparently, Jerry has secretly been extremely creepily stalking me and obsessing over me all this time, and Chloe's been exceedingly unhinged, jealous, envious, and bitter about how Jerry felt towards me, while she was doing to him what he was doing to me. Gross. Chloe's trying to act like it makes any even remote sense to believe she actually loves me at all, but she's actually just still trying to deal with trying to cover up all the lies she's told and harm she's done to Jerry to try to sabotage my life through him all this time. Chloe only ever pretended to be into Jerry and Herman to try to ruin my life. She's only ever pretended to want kids with me to try to justify it all and dump her extremely horrible karma onto me and others. She clearly vastly underestimated me and was hallucinating I'd be begging her by now. All these years, she constantly had egregiously, criminally disingenuous and inappropriate thoughts, feelings, and intentions behind the reality of what she was intending with her attitude and behavior towards everyone she got at all involved. I don't know exactly what another energy I got means, but I heard a mother is energetically pushing a son towards me so he can heal from some past and possibly also current traumatic relationship. It's unclear how they're connected to me. Someone claiming to be my ex-spouse or some kind of significant other is apparently relevant to that energy also. That son apparently has a sister and a brother as well, and I'm hearing his brother had to go away for a long time and got $60,000 to destroy me. To do what basically sounds like destroy my life with gang stalking, harassment, intimidation, and ultimately possibly execute on murdering me. Also, I've never been trying to involve minors in complex, high-level politics. It's increasingly difficult to get moments of peace and privacy, especially with all the loud cars, motorcycles, and trucks constantly passing around. I try to be quiet when recording. I have never had any plans to attend the FIFA World Cup anywhere, nor to go to Miami in general. There's literally no event I've ever particularly wanted to go to besides the Toronto meetup with Kimmy and Jamie 8+ years ago, and no place besides Los Angeles in general. Apparently, there's a Gemini in my vicinity that's interested in me. I don't care, to be honest. I'm completely uninterested in anyone around me. I don't want to date or even really be friends with any of them. I don't consider anyone in my vicinity even remotely exceptional enough to actually be able to have a deep, meaningful impact in my life. I can see some probably wish they could, but I operate on a completely different level they'll probably never even come close to really understanding. I want to move to LA and be with Kimmy, and obviously for Kimmy to not be such a narcissist in how she treats me. If I can't have that, then I really don't care how many times anyone tells me to move on. It's never happening, and I'll just keep rejecting everyone around me and everyone else online and make Kimmy's life an absolute nightmare. By extension, also perhaps an even bigger nightmare for anyone trying to keep us apart. So Jamie, Lena, and Emaine are probably really going to be going through it behind the scenes, even if they don't show it publicly. And, I mean, Jamie's already been showing it publicly, to some extent even. It seems to have calmed down, thankfully, but I was getting random notifications for tweets in Persian until I tweeted about it yesterday. I'll say it here as well. I don't know the language, and I feel no particular inclination towards it and or Iranians in general. It was weird stuff talking about medicine and spies that the translation feature on Twitter showed me. Although I wouldn't say I'm surprised that platform doesn't have a very good grasp on my interests and personality, especially since I hardly have used it ever. Another thing I've already tweeted about that's maybe related. I saw an Uber Eats for Jeff L. who ordered at 1:20, delivered at 1:41 p.m. yesterday. Barbecue chicken. Same exact trash bin and location of the setup Emaine's energy warned me of with the cigarette thing and the shady guy that approached me a while back. It seemed like whoever left it there partially ate some and then left it there, not even properly thrown in the trash, with a bunch of completely uneaten food. There were 4 pieces of chicken inside, 3 with and 1 without sauce. It was still there today, since the staff of that building hadn't cleared that trash last I checked. I did not and will not be claiming or eating that Uber Eats order, for multiple reasons. I'm not validating Emaine cucking my life, nor John cucking my life, nor Bezos cucking my life. Ever. I checked what was inside, literally just to know so I could post about it online. I'm not even joking. It was really suspicious to me. There's also been more than one occasion recently where an ice cream truck has come around a place I frequent and it was playing really weird, atypical music. I don't know how to say it exactly, but it's the one with Elise in the name, like the Beethoven thing. I'm not really sure where the energy influencing it is originating from exactly, but it's definitely extremely unusual for an ice cream truck to not be playing its usual tune. I'm really not sure why that one, of all things. Tweeting about that stuff brought some even more suspicious stuff in my energy that I also tweeted about already yesterday and will also include here. I am 31 years old, not 30. I do not wish to rewind time to before I started my podcast or any of its earlier stages. I'm not particularly looking forward to receiving any physical hand-delivered letters from some official in person. Again, I'm a Gemini, an air sign. I'm uninterested in any contracts about working with any earth sign, and I saw indications otherwise, particularly in relation to one that's younger than me. I saw this weird energy giving Emaine and Arya involvement, suggesting they're trying to force Jamie and or someone sharing her energy signature somehow onto me. I'm single, but very much not happily single. I wanted a proper, healthy, happy connection with Kimmy of the kind I've been saying. I'm uninterested in partying, and it's quite strange to me that suspiciously religion-obsessed energy is also party-obsessed. It doesn't matter to me that money is trying to find me if it's not coming in the manner I'm looking for it. Any manner at all compromising my integrity is a manner I'm not looking for it. Any earth sign in that energy is an egregious compromise of my integrity, since it pretty much certainly validates all kinds of extremely false narratives about me in relation to Jamie and Emaine, among others. I noticed something in my energy about having interest in witchcraft. It was saying something about taking a piece of my hair or something, and then putting it in a bottle with some broken glass or something. Maybe that's a way to get protection, but I'd prefer to protect myself with clarifying and purifying my energy through actual effort that makes that baseline protection persist absolutely unconditionally, not something like hair in a bottle that's prone to being stolen or destroyed. Although I suspect Chloe might have done such a thing recently and currently effectively be betting her life on it not getting stolen or destroyed. I don't have a mortgage, at least not that I'm aware, since, like I said, I don't own any real estate properties. I can't have a mortgage on non-existent property. Kimmy's energy was showing some kind of interest on the matter to me, though. Not sure why. I don't feel very concerned that if Kimmy's open and honest with me, I'll be unimpressed and reject her. If I had a checklist for what I look for, Kimmy's definitely closer to meeting it than anyone else. It's literally not possible that Kimmy is actually properly receptive to my feelings, and it doesn't help me in my life at all. It's not about how much money or fame she has. I've repeatedly said this. Anyone saying anything that could make Kimmy insecure about me wanting her is jealous and trying to sabotage. I don't have some insane obsession with the perfect person. There's as close as I can really imagine, and that's Kimmy. If anyone other than Kimmy were to approach me with some kind of love offer, they'd be the one that I'd reject and find nothing really worth of value they'd be adding in my life, no matter how vulnerable or honest they are. Absolutely no exceptions. Lily Energy seems exceedingly confused about this for some reason when she shouldn't be at all. I feel Lily is being extremely disrespectful right now towards me. There's absolutely nobody I'm trying to leave in a position of spilling their heart out to me while feeling extremely insecure and then to reject them. Even Kimmy, who I wouldn't reject, I've never been trying to make her feel extremely insecure of being rejected by me. I haven't been having spicy dreams. I mean, I have dreams in the sense of conscious aspirations of what life I'm working towards achieving, but as far as actual dreams, when I'm sleeping, I very rarely have or recall those, and even much more rarely have any I actually enjoy or wanted or even feel I needed or benefited from at all. I've never been at all worried about Kimmy being incompetent at giving me the most pleasant and satisfying sexual intimacy I could ever have or even have ever wanted with anyone. I imagine it would actually be quite easy for anyone who actually likes me and wants to sexually satisfy me, who I actually find even close to as physically attractive as Kimmy, to do a wonderful and extremely thorough job at sexually satisfying me. Kimmy should not feel ashamed at all for wanting me, nor for feeling insecure about it, especially since I can understand why she thinks she's inadequate. I've intentionally called her a goddess of incomparable physical sex appeal perfection countless times over time to try to ease her worries beyond any reasonable room for doubt and then some. I get upset because I feel she's so insecure or confused or hurt or whatever exactly it is that makes her ego all messed up when I've been trying so hard for so long to balance her emotional state to feel comfortable and confident about it all in the most healthy manner possible. This is why I keep going back to expressing frustration about her poor communication with me ever since the very beginning of our connection, especially with hiding the gossip about me from me that she could have just shared with me in the very beginning when we were talking in Discord DMs 8 years ago. I would have clarified everything so long ago, right then and there, and started making public statements and stuff like I have on this podcast about it all if necessary, and we could have avoided so much drama and pain and wasted time. I really never have concerned myself with whether it seems shallow to anyone what I want, because I want it regardless. You could say there are terms and conditions I'd have of me and Kimmy being together that I most certainly am absolutely unconditionally unwilling to ever at all tolerate being deprived of being able to enforce, but I also have always tried to be considerate about not having double standards in my expectations of the connection and to be extremely sensitive towards Kimmy's feelings to compensate for any possible confusion that may result from what might seem like a really distant, non-committal, or somehow disingenuous attitude from us towards each other in a context of a proper relationship of the kind I've been after having with her all along. I've been trying to make it abundantly clear from the very beginning that Kimmy can't possess me or try to dim my light somehow and expect to get away with it. But again, I've maintained that I haven't been trying to do that to her either, so it's clearly not a double standard. Sure, there might be a lot of other people out there that haven't publicly, blatantly tried to be possessive of me or dim my light, but there are far fewer, if any at all, that I'd say haven't effectively, indirectly, at least attempted it, whether through something like outright gossiping and or other spiritual means. I'm really not trying to be hateful, but I've seen what I'd say is a little too much spiritually, making it evident it's relevant for me to address, for me to just ignore. I'm not romantically and or sexually interested in Ashley. I never was. She's reasonably physically attractive, and more so than most non-Asian women, I'd say, at least as far as my preferences go. But she's never been even close to as appealing to me as Kimmy has always been. And for the record, I never even knew Ashley existed until that meetup with Kimmy and Jamie. I never grew particularly attached to Ashley even after attending her own meetup later for fun. I've been completely honest about it. Finally, I found it likely relevant to address that I have never made or even cared for making any solid assertions about whether the Earth is flat or round. I guess I feel like it might be flat, but ultimately I just believe it really doesn't matter for me to bother thinking about it and or trying to argue about it. I look at the functional efficiency and practical consequences of contemplating on and researching and putting effort into figuring out information, and quite frankly, I really don't see how it actually helps my life at all if I were to prove whether the Earth was flat or round. If you're a billionaire, you know the truth. If you aren't, you should see bigger issues to worry about.